Hey, it's your real estate geek, Andrew Finney here. In today's Real Estate Trends video, we're going to take a look at 5 home buying tips you won't see on TV. It's really important to note that with programs like HGTV and all those wonderful programs they have on that channel, they're tremendously wonderful for inspiring you to take the next step and be ready to buy your new home. Or if you're a seller looking to sell your home or simply renovate a home, they're awesome as far as getting you inspired. However, a simple 22-minute to 45-minute episode isn't the reality for any of those processes, from home buying to home selling to renovating a property. There's a lot more involved. So today's 5 tips is about home buying, and you're not going to see these tips on television. So let's give some clarity to you to empower you in your next home search. Let's lead in with home buying tip number 1. Don't start with a home tour. And it may sound a little bit counterproductive to you because you're like, well, I saw this house on Zillow or on Redfin, Trulia, or what have you, and you were like, I really want to see that home. Well, that's kind of like going to buy a car without knowing what you're approved for. If you go out and look at a home, maybe you think that you can afford that home, and maybe you can. But if you're using the calculators on like sites like Trulia and Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin, if you're using those financial calculators to figure out how much home you can afford, what they're not often taking into account are the taxes and insurance with the property. There's actually 5 things actually that you need to be aware of whenever you're trying to plan out how much you can afford in a home. It's the principal amount of the loan, the interest on that loan, the property taxes for the property, and the insurance for that property and the kind of coverage that you want. And they also need to take into consideration anything like homeowners association dues for communities that are in HOA communities. You need to know that information because it all goes into a monthly expense for that home. So the real number that you would be paying is a little bit different. Some people might term that as a hidden cost or a hidden fee. It's not if you have a trusted real estate advisor. And just to ensure that you know what a trusted real estate advisor is, it's actually a real estate consultant, a realtor, a real estate agent, if you will, using the terms interchangeably. But there's a key differentiation between a real estate consultant and a trusted real estate advisor. A trusted real estate advisor will listen to you, will set a time to meet with you at the office, and listen to what you're looking for and what's most important to you in your new home. In doing that, you're going to find that meeting, it can take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how many questions you really have about finding your new home and how much is accomplished in that meeting. Doing that meeting up front with your trusted real estate advisor is going to greatly hedge odds into your success. And it's really going to help you better understand and be more comfortable with the process going forward. So when you see somebody on HGTV, they go out and they look at a home and 22 minutes later they're closing on their new home, what they aren't showing you are the 30 to 45 days and the inspections and everything else in the process that it took to close that home. So whenever you get ready to buy your new home, and you're ready to, and you're serious and it's time to go and you really want to get into the process, contact a trusted real estate advisor and find a great real estate agent to work with you. I'm going to pop up a link now so that you can have another video to watch that I did on how to find a great real estate consultant. You'll want to take a look at that video, jot down some notes, and make sure that you find the right agent for you by reviewing their ratings, their reviews, and their client testimonials for the people that they work with. It always baffles me whenever I talk to a family and they came to me from a different agent, or something just didn't work with another situation, and I asked them, did you take the time to Google your loan officer? Did you take a chance to Google the real estate agent and check out the reviews and the ratings and the testimonials? And normally they say no. And that's unfortunate because we're dealing with the biggest investment most of us are ever going to make, which is our home. It's very, very important to get it right, and this is far too important to you to get anything wrong. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you're not going to see on television, tip number 2, which is that house hunting can take time. Now, with this point, with house hunting can take time, it really depends on you and the expectations that you have for your new home and what the situation may be with your credit when you meet with a local loan officer. And I'm going to stress that it's a local loan officer that you want to meet with, because the national firms and some of these bigger firms that provide loans like Quicken Loans, Veterans United, USAA, Wells Fargo, all of these different big banks that do that. What I have found in reality, and working with over 100 families successfully buy a home over the last few years, is the fact that it's almost like 1-800 take a number. It's hard to get a hold of them, it's hard to get a direct answer, and it's a very shaky process, and normally those loans take a very long time to close, if at all. So having a local loan officer is going to provide you with the peace and the comfort that you know you can pick up the phone, get an answer. You can send a text and get one back. You can send an email and get one back. And most importantly, you can actually set a time to meet with a local loan officer, and they'll take time and explain the loan process and pre-application with you. Make sure that you're 110% comfortable and confident with the terms of your loan, and that you fully understand what's going on with the process and which loan product may be best for your circumstance. Don't omit that. It's very important. So here goes another link about how to find a great loan officer. So home buying tip number 3 is, okay, now that you're through the first 2 tips, you have got your trusted real estate advisor, you have a great loan officer, you're pre-approved. Now let's say that you made an offer on a property and you got it accepted. You're all done, right? Not so much. There's a lot of things that are going to take place. Typically, it's going to take between 30 and 45 days to close on your new home. During that time, you're going to have what's called buyer's due diligence. You're going to want to order a home inspection. Don't skip out on the home inspection. It's entirely up to you as a buyer in our country whether you choose to perform a home inspection or have one performed or not. I'm going to highly encourage you to always get it done, because whether the seller makes repairs or not, you're going to want to know what condition that property is in, because when you go from home buyer to home owner, anything that needs to be worked on that property is now your responsibility. Wouldn't it be best to know ahead of time what you're going to be looking at so you can make maintenance plans and plans for the new home? It would, wouldn't it? So that's why you get a home inspection. Now your trusted real estate advisor is going to take a look at that home inspection report with you and discuss it with you and see what repairs you would like to ask of the seller to make prior to the close of escrow. The seller is going to either make some of the repairs, all the repairs, or none of the repairs. In many cases, sellers will make repairs to the property so long as they're not cosmetic in nature. So keep that in mind as we move on to home buying tip number 4, which is don't skip the inspection. That's how that works. I mean, that's just how important the home inspection is. There's different types of home inspections. You have the general home inspection. You can do pest inspections, which is a requirement on a VA loan, by the way. And you have, you can do any kind of inspections that you want. Roof inspections, pool inspections. The inspection list is very long and exhaustive exactly on how many of them. You have the option to do that. Just keep in mind, for every inspection, that is the buyer cost to perform. Most buyers seem very content and very happy with just a simple general home inspection that's going to give you an overview snapshot of everything that's going on in that property within a home inspector's abilities. Keep in mind, there's no Superman home inspectors out there that can see into a wall. There are some nice technologies out there that some home inspectors have so they can measure and see if there's any moisture within the walls with little tools and devices they have. For that, get with your local real estate consultant, your trusted real estate advisor, to be able to, that will be happy to provide you with a list of good home inspectors in your area that you can make a decision of which one that you want to work with. And then that actually brings us around very rapidly here to home buying tip number 5, which, people call them hidden costs, and it just annoys me when they call it a hidden cost, because if you're working with the right loan officer, the right local loan officer, the right trusted real estate advisor, the right local real estate consultant, right? Those 2 people alone will make sure that there is nothing hidden underneath the sun with you. In the buyer consultation meeting, whenever I meet with the family, I review what buyer disclosures are. I review what an offer looks like. I review the terms and things that we need to be aware of, what they're looking for their circumstances. I work very closely with their local loan officer to ensure that I understand what the loan officer needs to make the loan work. Whenever we're talking about different cost of it, you're going to have a down payment, even on a VA loan. And if you're active duty or if you're a veteran out there, this is really important for you to know with a VA loan. It's a zero down loan. Yes, there's also something called a VA funding fee, and the VA funding fee is actually a program fee that goes to the Veteran Affairs Office to run the VA loan program. The only way that you're going to get exempted from a VA funding fee is if you have a 10% or greater service-connected disability rating. That's the only way you're going to get exempted from it. If you don't have that, or if you're active duty, because obviously you don't have a disability rating if you're active duty, right? You're going to have what in 2017 is a 2.15% VA funding fee for a first use. It goes a little bit higher the more times you use it, but it's important to know that you can factor that in. So while you don't have a down payment, you do have a funding fee that needs to be planned for. You also need to plan for appraisal fees. Appraisal fees can run anywhere right now between $450 to $700 depending on where you live in the country. It's important to know that. Home inspections are going to be another buyer cost that you need to be ready for right up front. that pay directly to the home inspector the time of service. Now, home inspection fees are going to greatly vary from inspector to inspector, the type and depth of the home inspection, and also for the size of the home. And like if you have a pool or something like that on the home, it's going to cost an additional fee to inspect the pool and the house at the same time. So keep these things in mind. And one of the biggest things, and I can't stress this enough, is when you get ready to buy your home, there are buyer closing costs. Sellers have, whenever a seller sells a home, they have seller closing costs. I did another video, I'm going to throw up the link up here, and that video is simply titled, What Are Buyer and Seller Closing Costs? Now, I'm going to end up breaking that out and doing another video on it very soon, actually, on what are buyer closing costs and what are seller closing costs in 2 separate videos. And the reason being is this last week alone, I've met with 3 families that whenever I sat down with them at my office and we were doing our buyer consultation meeting, and we were reviewing everything they need to be prepared for financially to be able to buy their new home, which is something you want to do. You really, really want to do that prior to getting in the car and going looking at a home. Because if you don't know how much it's going to cost you, or if you have the money in the bank to afford it, then we need to come up with a plan and how we're going to structure this and make it happen. Now, while buyer closing costs can be negotiated into a purchase agreement and asking the seller to pay for it, it's not going to always happen. And it's really going to depend on what kind of real estate market we're in. Is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a stable market or a flat market, if you will? You know, it's really important to know that, and your trusted real estate advisor is going to be able to advise you accordingly with that information so that you can work together and plan it out in a way that makes sense and that you'll be comfortable and confident the whole way through. So whenever a seller has their own closing costs and a buyer has buyer closing costs, they're called buyer closing costs for a reason. And those buyer closing costs, when you ask for a seller, can make or break a deal. So it's important to know that. It's always best to be prepared. If we plan for the worst and hope for the best, then we're ready for every single thing out there to make your home buying journey a very positive and exciting time, as it should be. So whenever, just as a general rule of thumb, something you can take away and use right now is when you're looking at buying a home, factor how much your down payment is going to be. Consider how much the appraisal cost is going to be. Consider what kind of inspections you want done and what the cost of those inspections are. And then also factor 3%. That's 3% of a sales price. So for example, if you're looking at a $500,000 home and you want to plan for your buyer closing costs, $500,000 times 3% is $15,000. Be ready to pay that, and then your trusted real estate advisor will, of course, negotiate for you to try to get the seller to cover all, some, or part of that. It just depends. Every seller is different, and this is real life right now. You know, this isn't like bullshit, frankly, that you see on television or you see out there or you hear other people say, because it's very annoying whenever somebody comes in and they said they talked to a real estate agent, and the real estate agent said that, well, you know, they said that this can happen or that can happen, they can roll this into the loan or they can do this, but then they don't explain to you or get with a local loan officer, they explain to you how that affects your mortgage interest rate. So, you know, there's a lot of things to consider in this, and I know that right now, you know, these tips are going to be really good to help you out, and it's meant to stimulate your thought process so that you ask really good questions of your trusted real estate advisor and your local loan officer so that you better understand and you're better prepared. Because look, if you're going to need, let's say, $20,000 to buy a home and you have $10,000 in the bank, you may need to wait a few months to save up the extra money, or you may need to have a whole different stratagem as far as finding the right home and finding that seller that'll pay your buyer closing costs so you can go ahead and get into your new home. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed up front, and the best time to do that is the buyer consultation meeting after you have read the reviews, you have checked the ratings of the local real estate consultant, that trusted real estate advisor that's going to be your best friend and your guide in your home buying journey, and then plan it out from there. Doing that will save you a lot of time, energy, and money, and I can't stress enough, it'll save you a huge amount of frustration. This is a very, very real world thing that happens on a daily basis in real estate across the United States. Please take heed. If you have questions about this video, I'm putting my email up. Feel free to reach out to me. If you need help finding a trusted real estate advisor, let me know. I can help you. I have networks all across the United States, and I'm happy to put them to use for you in finding the best real estate agent and that trusted real estate advisor that's going to be local and take the time to work with you and ensure that all your questions are answered. And that trusted real estate advisor will in turn know a trusted local loan officer that can actually get the job done and help you with finding out which finance type is best for you and helping you understand your mortgage options and what it's going to cost at the end of the day, so you can come up with a monthly budget for your new home. If you have questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me. You want to share some home buying tips that you won't see on TV, then put them in the comment section below. Let's continue to grow our community. Please, if you haven't already done so and you found something useful in this video, give me those thumbs up. Share it around and let's grow this community, because by all means, by sharing it, you're going to be able to help somebody that you don't even know. The same reason that I make these videos, because likely I don't know you. And we're going to be, 50 states, and this being a YouTube being a open to the world essentially. I'm making these videos to help you, even though I don't know you, because I do care about you and I do care about what happens to people in this world, and that's why I do it. If you're here in Las Vegas and you want to work together, let me know. I'm happy to help. Anyways, enjoy a great day, and I'll see you next week with Real Estate Trends. Enjoy a wonderful weekend.